In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the full strategy for how a brand is scaled from 0 to 8 figures in yearly revenue. I'm going to be showing all the individual things that this brand is doing really well in order to hit those numbers. Before we dive into the video, just a quick refresh on the Shopify dashboard to show you that I'm qualified to speak on the topic of growing e-commerce brands. Last 90 days, one of our clients just over 1 million in sales. And what we do for clients is we help them scale to 8 figures. We do that through multiple different things across both customer acquisition and customer retention services. On the acquisition side, we're focused around media buying, ad creative, we're focused around conversion optimization, landing pages, building offers that work. And then on the retention side, we're focused around email and SMS marketing, but also lifetime value strategy as well, okay? So let's get straight into the video. The brand that we're gonna be talking about today is this brand called Booby Tape. So this brand has grown from 0 to 8 figures pretty quickly, and I'm gonna be sharing the key levers that they've applied to grow to this rate, okay? And of course, what you can apply to your own brand as well. So the key here when growing this fast is you can't just rely on one strategy to acquire customers, right? You can't just rely on meta ads to acquire customers and send them to the website and expect to scale to 8 figures. Brands have done that, but it's hard, and you want a diversified strategy to create more defensibility against, the fact when, meta ads doesn't work for a month, or just the whole point of like spreading different eggs in different baskets. So some key points about this brand: they have retail presence, right? They're in 20,000 retail stores globally, CVS, Target, etc. Not just in the US, but globally. They're doing 8 figures in annual revenue, as we mentioned. They're one of the top 3 brands in the market that it's selling to, and there's a lot of innovation and product expansion. One of the brand's key marketing points is that they're the world's first booby tape. And first mover advantage is obviously a key part in gathering market share. But even as competitors enter the market, which is, inevitable in any market, right? You need to maintain innovation and product expansion to stay ahead, right? So we're going to be covering that in this video as well. So the first thing that let's dive into is the DTC strategy, direct consumer, selling on Shopify. The first thing is obviously a high converting store, right? You need high conversion rate, you need an offer structure, AOV, you need products that sell, right? That is a no-brainer. Without this, it's very difficult to, acquire customers. Second thing is a hero product, and the hero product that they've gone for is the Booby Tape, right? They started with this, they've since expanded from that, but the hero product is really what drives the brand to begin with, right? You have one main product that you build the brand around, and then you add in some complementary products after that. They have a lot of before and afters, a lot of social proof on their site, which is a classic example of show, don't tell marketing. If you can do this within your brand, definitely do it across your ads, your emails, your website, your landing pages, everything. Then complementary product lines, as you mentioned, as they started to expand and scale, they started to introduce other complementary products that weren't just focused around tape, but also silicone chest pads, breast lotion, clay mask, scrubs, etc. So they've transcended, the tape to actual skincare products, right? So what they're doing is they're building this ecosystem, which we're going to see how that comes together in just a moment. And then of course, global expansion. This is just one example of their Hungarian site. You think, main markets, US, Canada, UK, Australia, but it's good to think out of the box and think about what emerging markets there are that you can potentially expand into and test. This brand has expanded into Germany and Hungary, very interesting markets to expand into. And, just goes to show that you don't always have to stick to the huge markets, right? You can grow a lot just by expanding into other countries and of course localizing it. Like this is all in Hungarian. So you want to localize every single thing you do to the country you're expanding into. So this is the main things about the DTC strategy. Now, going into product and retail expansion, which is a really important part of scaling and how this brand has been successful. They've gone from a single product to a full ecosystem. As you mentioned, they started with, the tape, then they added these silicone pads, and then they went into skincare and so on. And here we can see they've expanded into other products such as makeup, right? So you can see how just because you start a brand in one area doesn't mean you can't expand into other complementary areas, okay? So that is a huge part of, that diversification, not just in the way you acquire customers, but also how you appeal to new customers, right? You might get new customers coming into your brand through your makeup products or through your skincare products, and then you can sell them the tape products and vice versa. Now you have multiple entry points into the brand, right? When you send the product as well, you might want to include an insert to say, hey, did you know that we also have skincare products which complement the tape directly, right? And that's how you introduce customers to your other products when they purchase. 20,000 retail stores, as we saw, worldwide. This is a huge part, and like this is no small feat, right? 20,000 retail stores is huge, and credit to these guys because they've done an amazing job at doing this. And if you want defensibility against, building a brand, then going into retail is, I believe, a key part of the strategy, because if you just rely on D2C, maybe you're doing Amazon as well, you're only going to get so far, right? You need to expand into retail and not just, to reach new audiences, new customers who maybe not shopping online or don't see your brand online, but there's that discovery that happens in store. And what it does is it creates this retail brand to D2C loop, right? So it's a cyclical loop where someone, if they see you in a store in like Target, they going hand in hand with the iconic packaging, you stand out on the shelf, they pick it up, that's their first introduction to the brand. then they see an ad on Instagram, then they go to your Instagram page, they see all the social proof, the before and afters, they go to your website, they see more of that, and it just is a self-perpetuating cycle. So it also happens the other way, right? They might see an organic post first, they might see one of their friends share it, they might see an ad, they might see an article online, and then when they're in CVS, they say, oh, there's that brand that I saw online, and it's the same thing. So everything kind of intertwines into one. And what I mean to say is that retail doesn't just expand your ability to sell, but it also expands your ability to build a brand and build brand equity, which is really, really important, for the long term, especially if you're looking to exit and sell. Okay. Iconic packaging, just to, go deeper into this, it's really important when you're, thinking about, especially like a retail strategy. How do you stand out on the shelf? Because in the past video, we talked about liquid death, and we spoke about how they built their product and they built their can to look different than other water on the shelf. And what that does is that it leads, people to pick it up off the shelf, say, what's this? And then that's it, right? That's the introduction to the brand. So a very, very similar strategy here. And you can see how the similarities between these have allowed them to have a very, very successful retail strategy. So going into influencer, social, and word of mouth strategy, this is key. Like if you want to build more top of funnel and decrease your customer acquisition cost, influencer, social, word of mouth are things that you must be doing, okay? First thing is organic content. Now they have a very strong organic presence on both Instagram and TikTok. And this is key, right? They're posting a lot of content, they're posting a lot of customer-led content, but they're also posting a lot of content around the retail stores that they're in. If you come to the Instagram or TikTok page, you'll see exactly what I mean. TikTok is even more of this, right? A lot of UGC, a lot of social proof around that, a lot of people using it. And what that does is it builds a lot of trust with the consumer. And also it's a discovery point for a lot of consumers as well, right? They're not always having to see like a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad to be discovered to your brand online, but they're coming into organic, which is always a great introduction. Next thing is celebrity endorsements. Now, I know this isn't possible for all brands, and some a lot of times these can happen organically. You don't have to pay a celebrity to use the product. If you have a good product and if you have a strong organic presence and you just have a lot of hype and variety on your product, then it's very, very likely that celebrities and influencers are just going to start wearing it and they're just going to post about it. So this brand obviously has a lot of A-list celebrities wearing the product and using the product, and they're using that to their advantage. But I've seen this with other brands as well, even brands that I've spoke to who have just randomly, and even our clients actually, who randomly get these celebrities wearing the product, these influencers, and it's like it creates a spike in sales. And then obviously you can reach out to that influencer, reach out to their team and start to, build a relationship with them. So, this doesn't always have to be paid. And actually, I'd recommend you actually letting this happen more organically, because the paid collabs, they don't always lead to, great results. So I'd recommend let this happen organically, but do the groundwork, which allows you, puts you in a position to get to this stage, okay? Which is more the organic side and putting the work in there. Influencer marketing is another thing as well, like partnering with influencers in the space. Again, it can be paid, it could be more organic, but the key here is having those influencer partnerships. One thing that I learned from a brand called Kalo, and Taylor and his team over at Commentary Collective, is that they identified, they sold silicone rings, and they identified specific sub-communities that could be interested in like a blog of firefighter wives. So it was like 1,000 firefighter wives, and they sent a very thoughtful package to them to say, hey, here's silicone rings for you and your husband. And your husband, once he's on the job, with firefighting, he can actually wear the silicone ring instead of wearing nothing, right? Because they take the weathering off to go on the job. So thoughtful things like that, which build community and they build word of mouth. And really, this is what I come back to here. The word of mouth is exponential growth. This, paid ads is linear. Sending emails is linear. You send, you get something back in return. You pay for ads, you get, X number, whatever ROAS or ROI back in return. Word of mouth is exponential. If you can increase that throughout communities and very boots on the ground strategy where you're going deep into those communities and do the unscalable, but then make it scalable, that's how you're going to achieve that word of mouth, and it's going to work in your favor. So coming into additional growth levers, there's four final things that I want to talk about. Is the product is positioned as a confidence boosting tool. So we're not selling tape, we're selling the after state, right? We're selling the desired state. Confidence boosting tool. It's, going back into those Life Force 8 desires that we've spoken about on my channel before, where we want to appeal to the core desires we have as humans that are wired into us, okay? And this is a key factor. So you want to think about how your brand, how your product appeals to that desired outcome. You don't want to be selling your product. You want to sell the state that your customer wants, the mindset, the feeling that the customer wants, the emotion after they use a product. And your product is simply just the vehicle to get them from A to B. Next thing is getting earned media and PR with a world first angle. So they obviously, first mover advantage, and they, got a lot of media and PR around this, we're the world's first angle. And then, celebrities start jumping on board, and guess what? That leads to more media, more PR, and so on. It's another cycle. It's a flywheel, right? So rather than, paying for a Forbes article, which I don't really recommend you do, I recommend you try and get this moving organically. Build something that these PR articles, these media want to speak about. That is the key to a successful PR strategy and getting this without having to pay for it. So the next thing is a founder-led narrative. Two sisters solving a personal problem that they face themselves, and then they're bringing this product to market. The founder-led narrative works really, really well, especially if the target audience that you're going after is the same as the founder. A lot of founders are scared to be on camera. The way I see it is, if you have a compelling story and that drives emotion and it triggers emotion in your potential customers, then get in front of camera, shoot content, organic, shoot ads, get on podcasts, do whatever you have to do to get the word out, because it works really, really well. And what it transcends a brand, like selling like a faceless brand selling to customers, to selling person to person. And ultimately, even if it's a business to consumer, it's still, a person buying from a person, right? That's always the case. Final thing here is they leveraged event marketing and just seasonal events. So festival season, they have, these stories from like a Halloween party, and just this brand sells tape and like skincare products. Why would they post about like a Halloween party, et cetera, et cetera? Well, the key is that they're using common events throughout the year, calendar events, and they're fitting their product into them, right? So again, we're selling the after state. So customers here, they're using the tape because they dress up. What other times of the year do you dress up? And what this does is it creates seasonal demand spikes. So they're basically creating their own demand by saying, hey, this event is coming up, be ready for it, make sure that you look your best. And, again, the product is simply just a vehicle for A to B, right? They're not selling like, hey, it's New Year's Eve, you need tape, right? No, it's New Year's Eve, you're picking out, which dress you want to wear, and just make sure that, if you want to go strapless or whatever it is, right, that you have tape to make, to look like this, right? And that's it. So these are really the key levers that I want to talk about today. This brand has done this really, really well. And today's video was more like a higher level strategy video, right? Where I wanted to get these points across, because a lot of times you can get bogged down in like, which landing page should I use and which ad creator should I choose? All that's important. There's plenty of videos on my channel where we break those down. But this one, I think it's, once in a while, it's good to zoom out, good to look at the bigger picture and say, what are we actually trying to build here, right? Because if you want to build a brand to 8 figures, you need to apply a lot of the things that we spoke about today. That's it for this video. If you are looking for a partner to help you scale your e-commerce brand, there'll be a link below this video where we can have a chat. We can talk about the current challenges you're facing in your business and see if there's a fit for us to work together. All right, see you in the next one.